Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of What CD is Rob listening to now? And now we continue on with our Van Halen marathon. Now before I continue, I must say I did write notes, just like the last album I reviewed, 1984. But I think I read too much and stammered a bit too much and got a little annoying just reading. So I don't know how I got watching, but I'm going to try and read the notes less and we'll see how it goes. But 1986 brought many things with it when it reared its head on a Wednesday, including the tragic Challenger explosion, advancements in email, the Human Genome Project, and sadly the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. But it also brought the Red Rocker, Mr. Sammy Hagar, to the band Van Halen. How was that for an intro, eh? Sammy was known for his solo work as well as his work in Montrose, but I think at this point what he's most well known for was his time in Van Halen. And this first album kicks off in fine fashion with the tune Good Enough. And this song is a hell of a great rocker. Not only does Eddie sound better than ever before here, I think that the drum sound and indeed the drum licks themselves have been elevated far beyond anything he did with the previous singer, except for maybe Hot for Teacher. He just such an amazing level here that at this point there's no denying that Alex Van Halen is one of the greatest drummers of all time. Gone is the talking and the random mumbling and all of the Roth fuckery, and what we get here are just some great vocals that serve every moment of the song. This is a new and, in my opinion, better band. Yes, my opinion. Next up, Why Can't This Be Love is an iconic song in the Sammy Hagar era of the band. It's a keyboard-driven tune without much guitar to speak of, but I find myself okay with that here. It's a power ballad, and the first real power ballad from Van Halen. Roth could never pull off something quite like this. Either that or the band didn't even want to attempt it. This song is very indicative of the sort of melodic rockers that the band would become known for during this era of their career. And while many people may have already taken the needle off their record at this point, I find myself turning it up for this phenomenal song on this wonderful record. Get Up is next, and it brings back the guitars in fine fashion with some killer work from Eddie before Alex joins in for an intro that feels almost like Hot for Teacher. In fact, this track gives me that vibe many times, but this is much better to my ears. Eddie really shows the world that it doesn't matter who's singing, he only came to rock, and this song has rock in spades. I almost feel sorry for those that stopped the album and tossed it before this track. This tune is epic and classic Van Halen. Oh, sure, we don't get any Tarzan howls, darn, but we do get great vocals and a band that seems to be sort of reborn with this new singer. They definitely made it work. If you don't know that this is an excellent Van Halen song and that it sounds nothing like the band, then you're just not listening. This sounds much like the previous albums as well as its own. So, I mean, it's really cool stuff. And if you've been watching my reviews, or you know anything about me, you'll know that I'm an absolute sucker for a good ballad and anything melodic. And this next track, Dreams, has all of that and more. There's acoustic guitar here, keyboards, or rhythm sections that prove that they were the best at what they did. Sammy sounds right at home with the boys on this song. And even though it's a valid ballad, there are some very tasty guitar licks here, including a face-melting solo. And I just love the sound of the drums on this one. I'd imagine that this was another polarizing track for the bands, and they sort of discounted them by this point. But for me, at this point, I'm like, Roth who? I mean, but this was another ballad, and whoever heard of such madness on a Van Halen album? But for me, this is a high benchmark tune, and many fans agree with me. This was a huge song for the band, and rightly so. And this is why I love Sammy so much. The man can sing. I mean, Roth could sing as well, but not quite like this. He was more of a showman, and he was damn good at it. But Sammy was a singer first, and it really showed in his vocals. Summer Nights is the next song. It opens with a really cool guitar riff and an from Sammy, which I don't love, but at least it's not the full-blown fuckery that we were used to from Roth. When the full band kicks in, it's with that sort of slight echo vibe that started to show up on the 1984 album. I don't know if that's what the effect is, but it just sounds like it, and Van Halen definitely perfected that over the years. This tune is another guitar rocker with a fantastic rhythm section propelling the song forward. Sammy sounds right at home here with a very melodic chorus and some vocal harmonies hanging out in the background. I believe this is one of the great, sadly forgotten songs from the album. And the instrumental interlude, complete with smoking guitar solo, is seriously cool. Probably among my favorite Van Halen moments. Next up is another classic in the Van Halen catalog, and one that should have never been dropped for the set list, even with Roth in the band. Now, there's no way he could have sang this song, but it would have been cool to see anyway. Sammy continues to prove his worth to the band on this one, and it is Best of Both Worlds. Fantastic song. It's a guitar-driven melodic rocker with some fantastic bass and some of my favorite drum moments on the album. The vocal performance may be one of the best on the album as well. Though the guitars may not be the focal point during the verses, Eddie is playing a really cool riff, and the chorus is so big, I just love it. Also, some great bass work from Anthony on the outro here. Love Walks In next is another sort of ballad piece with some piano and synths bringing in the song. It's also one of Sammy's best vocal performances on the album. If it's not obvious, yet again, I just love the melodic tunes and the ballads. And with Sammy in the band, it's easy to see why this is my favorite era of the band. This song, I think, is Michael's shining moment on the album as well. The stuff he's playing here, though maybe a bit reserved, is really cool. And the vocal harmonies here, especially on the chorus, are phenomenal. For a ballad, this tune does know how to rock as well. The band were always good at serving the song, and this version was at the best at it. Just a great tune. The title track kicks off with an absolutely smoking instrumental section that lasts just over a minute before the lead vocals kick in and shows that we have another melodic rocker here on our hands. The entire band are just perfect on this track. You can tell that the chemistry with Sammy and the strengths of the band really mix well. The sound on this track, and really the entire disc, has that sort of distinct Van Halen vibe. Again, it's like that echo thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but I just love it. And they definitely perfected it over the years. The guitar work here, especially that solo, is phenomenal. Alex is killing it on the drums, and once again, Michael Anthony just turns in a fantastic performance. The album closes with the most 80s sounding song on the disc. There's some cool guitar layered over a dirty synth sound and some vocal fuckery from the entire band. I say vocal in quotes here. I guess there had to be at least one song with a talking section, and this was it. And this song just doesn't work for me at all. I don't know, it's just not great. I mean, it has some cool sounding music, but this is one song on the album that just didn't do it for me. There are moments of pure brilliance, but they're overshadowed by all of the talking bits that I just still don't care for. Still, 8 out of 9 tracks on this album ain't bad, or whatever the hell it was that Meatloaf said. Gotta love Mr. the Loaf. Well, when Van Halen did their remaster campaign several years ago, the Sammy Hagar albums were just ignored. But I hear that they're remedying that, and we'll be getting some of these fantastic Sammy Hagar era albums remastered soon, and I for one can't wait. I think this album will definitely benefit from it, and definitely OU812, which I think is the least, it's just the worst sounding album from the band as far as I'm concerned, and I'm looking forward to a sort of update to that. But I'm going to tune into that album next, and then I'll let you know my thoughts after I'm done listening to it. It's not my favorite Van Halen album, but it's Sammy, and I love Sammy, and I love the album, so we're going to do that next. But again, this was 5150, released in 1986. We'll see you next time for, U812? Or did you eat them and smile? Yeah. Anyway, till next time, doodles.